last lecture we have been discussing about the heritage conservation in India, and in that we have been discussing the legislative and organization policy. We will continue with that, but also we will discuss in today's lecture about the role of voluntary organization and NGOs for safeguarding in India, and we will see that what is their role in an Indian situation. So, if you recall that we have been talking about Mumbai, because in Mumbai the draft heritage regulation has been a very pioneering role, and we will see that what are the recommendation which has been given in Mumbai. So, this is based on a report which was prepared by Narayan Lamba, which is a very well known conservation architect. So, according to the recommendation based on the issues which we have seen in Mumbai, as we have seen that there are the categories, there are legislation, there are the grading, but in spite of that certain problems are arising, and the incentives are there, but still there are some of the structures have been delisted and pressings are not able to be preserved as it was envisioned. So, the recommendations which have been given based on the experience what we have seen in Mumbai are the need to define and delimit pressings and neighborhoods through spatial regulation. This Mumbai has done, and now it has been adopted in the model heritage regulations of India also. Now, innovative tax incentive, there has to be some incentives for the owner whom we are talking about, that they need to preserve their structures. So, to support conservation, either they are private owners or some voluntary organization or some organization, there has to be some sort of a tax incentive, and it has to be done under the policy level. Need to prioritize funding for government buildings. So, if there are certain government buildings, so there has to be a priority set, that how to give a funding to that, especially which are in the heritage conservation zone. Trust to grant funds to owner. Apart from the tax incentives, there are funds required, because some of the owners and organization may not be able to take care of the heritage structures. So, trust to grant funds to owners for restoration of the structure as well as maintenance for grade 3 private residential historic stock. This is an absolutely important, and some sort of a fund need to be formed which can give to private owners either the long term role or some grant, some sort of funding instrument has to be formulated. Stronger punitive action against the MHCC violation. So, if some people think that they can get away with the violation of that, then that will be quite rampant, and some exemplary punishment and punitive actions need to be given to show that the people cannot get away with if they violate the norms and the acts or the regulations which are there in the heritage preservation areas. Grant funds available with the heritage committee to provide assistance in specific cases. Now, heritage committee are the one who are finally looking into the what can be done and what are the various options, and they are giving the approval. So, heritage committee can grant funds, so based on certain special fund which are created, that also need to be done, so that to give an assistance in special cases. But most important is the awareness and vigilance, that there is obviously that the number of heritage structure is quite huge, and but one has to be very aware and vigilant for that, not only at the public servant level, but also the local people, to make awareness, to make them aware that what are the provisions and what are possible and what are not allowed. This has to be done to the various activities, programs and other things. Now, also what is important is that now with the communication has developed so much, that all the information can be put on the web, and it has to be made accessible to everybody, so that people can know that what are the possible and which are the pressings, which are not. So, that awareness information should be made available on the web, and need for a proactive role played by the heritage committee. So, heritage committee has a lot of role to play. They can play a very important role, both in a positive way, not only that stopping the development, but also trying to say that what can make them possible, and discourage renaming of the heritage structure. Now, we must understand that when we are talking about heritage areas, pressing And structures, their term names are very important, because with the name some association or the histories are linked with the names of the structure. So, just because of some ad hoc decision, changing the name of the structure is not a good idea. So, that is also very important, and the Heritage Committee can play a very important role in that. To establish a local development authority comprising of the locals and the professionals, both are important, as the local people, the stakeholders, as well as the professionals who are conservation experts and various disciplines, structure, landscape, architecture, town planning, historian, archaeologists, all of them make a very important, and this has to be formed under the umbrella of the municipality, and coordination between the various agencies is absolutely important. So, these are some of the recommendations which were done because of looking after the Mumbai situation in spite of the regulation. What are the problems which are faced by Mumbai? Now, let us go back to again the India. We have seen the Mumbai situation, that what are the different methods for legislating or regulating for the heritage conservation. Just take a quick look. Now, the government of India, where the Mumbai one regulation was a pioneering role, and then Punjab also did that, Hyderabad did that, and Bhubaneswar, Kolkata, various other places had their own heritage. Delhi also has a heritage listing, but as if you talk of the regulation, the Mumbai played a very important role. After that, the Punjab within the provision of town planning played a very important role, and based on that, the draft model regulation has been done for overall India at the national level, and it has been done both for the natural and the man-made heritage. Now, revised model regulation given statutory force under the revised Environmental Protection Act of 1986, which specially takes care of the natural heritage, and there has been a model heritage bill and the State Town and Country Planning Acts, which we have already discussed, that the Punjab Regional and Town Planning and Development Amendment Act of 2003 is very important, because it also takes a region and the broader context, and then the town and the local level. So, it is a good hierarchy, one can follow that one. And the West Bengal Heritage Commission Act of 2001, West Bengal is the only state in the country which has a state-wise Heritage Commission Act, and then also the Urban Art Commission Act, which is in Delhi. These are all some which can be referred, and which one can see as a model, and depending on the specific situation, we can sort of try to see that this type of heritage regulation become a part of the local authority plan, and how to implement that. And also what we have to see, there are the large archaeological and heritage sites, which are the World Heritage sites like Champani Prabhatkar Archaeological Park, which has a World Heritage Management. So, there are various World Heritage sites, and these are there we need to coordinate not only under the UNESCO guidelines, but the local authority plan. The Hampi also has done a regional Hampi Development Authority, which has been done to take care of that. So, there are the various places where the various acts, regulations, and the development bodies have been formed. We can look up to that, and then depending on the context, this can give us a guideline that what can be done. And there are a lot of cantonments, the military areas and the barracks, which also is in heritage value, and they also have a Cantonment Act, which was done in 2006. So, these are some of the quick reckoner that what we can refer to. Now, in spite of all these regulation acts and others, we still see that we are losing a lot of heritage resources, and especially when we are talking about the heritage area, and there is a lacuna, there is a gap. Now, let us see what are the organizational issues for heritage conservation. We need a nodal ministry. This I have taken from that report which was done by Mr. Shyam Chinani for the model heritage regulation. So, he identified that there is a note for the nodal ministry, the listing has to be very important, and field organization, National Mission of Monument and Antiquity, they had done a lot of work over on national level. So, there is no need for repeating the things. We have to have an access to that and see that where are the gaps and how it can be updated and how the information can be made available to all. And if there is some need for a heritage regulation in a local context, that has to be done. But the listing is a very important initial part, and the listing by large organization, because listing is a very important process. It needs a proper documentation process, information, and then collating the information under the various GIS support system. These so that we can relate the spatial data with the attributes. Some of the places the listing is already done, but there may be partial, so it can be updated. So, listing is one of the initial stage, and also what is important is the heritage advisor and heritage advisory committee, not only at the national level, but at the local level, various levels. These are very important when we are talking about the heritage resources. So, Heritage Conservation Committee, we have a several heritage committee, but it is not the statutory to form the committee. We have to see the committee has to play a very proactive role. The members of the committee are the people who have the expertise. It is not for just forming the committee, and they also play their role very well. There are a lot of hurdles that had to be resolved. Also, we must know that recently the Hriday and the Heritage City Development and Augmentation Yojana, which is the Hriday concept, which is done by the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, the Government of India. One of the mandate of that is looking for the heritage city, and they especially addresses some of the various issues relating the conservation and the development issue, and many of the cities have been selected for that under different phases, and many schemes have been worked. Now, this has really played a very pioneer role, but we also must remember that these concepts are also very area based locally. They have to be integrated with the local development plan and the stakeholders, but definitely Hriday has played addressed some of the basic issues and challenges, and some works, very interesting works being carried out under this scheme. While we have been talking about the organization, the government role, we also must understand there are the voluntary organization who play a very important role in the awareness, and not only awareness, but the capacity building and other. One of the very important organization which has been really playing a pioneering role in the INTACH, or Indian National Trust for Art and Cultural Heritage. It is actually based on the model of the National Trust in UK. Which is not a government organization. It is outside the government, but it from the capacity building and from the ground level work to the national level work, it's very important both for tangible and intangible heritage. Now, let's see what was the vision of INTACH. Vision was to spearhead a heritage awareness and conservation in India, and initially when INTACH started, it had to play it was supposed to play the role of a watchdog, that being outside the government, it can really talk and it really can form the opinion, people's opinion, and can, wherever the protest is required, INTACH can do that. That was the role INTACH was supposed to play. And so spearhead heritage awareness and conservation, and it is recognized as one of the world's largest heritage organization with over 190 chapters across the country. One must remember that these chapters, local chapters, are very important role they have there. Depending on the context, depending on the situation, one can form a chapter. They are pioneered the conservation and preservation of not just our natural and built heritage, but intangible heritage as well. INTACH, that we has played a very important role, and it is headquartered in New Delhi, but it operates through the various divisions. Let us see what are the various divisions. This is the structure of INTACH, where there is an executive council, the vice chairman is there, and there the member secretary, and under that there are the various divisions, and then there are the chapters, which are the local chapters. So, let us see what are the various divisions. There are the architectural heritage, natural heritage, material heritage, intangible cultural heritage, heritage education and communication services, crafts and community cell, chapters, INTACH Heritage Academy, which is now recently they are going to start course, formal courses or modular courses to give a certificate or probably later on some of the degree, and this is very important for capacity building or preparing the proper expertise under the various things. It is, and also different publication and research. It promotes a lot of research and heritage tourism. So, these are the enlisting cell and library. So, heritage INTACH that way works in tandem with the government. They also now have a consultancy cell where they take up the individual independent projects. And there are also the archives or documentation center, and it has now has its own standing, and it is the government also takes the advice of INTACH and support of INTACH under the various purpose which are related to the heritage, but most important are also the chapters, the local chapters, which are a lot in numbers, and they are very important part of the INTACH to support or to start the ground level work, raise awareness and capacity building. But not only INTACH, there are also other non-governmental organization NGOs which play a very important role. One of that is Shahopedia, which is played major role in our intangible heritage. A lot of intangible heritage in India has been inscribed because of the role Shahopedia plays in terms of the intangible heritage. So, these I see the website, and one can access their website and see that what are the various works they are being doing, in addition to not only the awareness, but the capacity building, the supporting the research. So, let us see, I have just mentioned two. So, there is the INTACH, there is Shahopedia, but there is also many NGOs who are working for the heritage under the different aspects. There is India Heritage Foundation, the Indian Trust for Rural Heritage and Development. Then locally I know Banglanatuk.com in West Bengal, these our region, they are playing very important. Calcutta Heritage Legacy. I am just mentioning some of them, but each and every region of India has a lot of these NGOs, voluntary organization, who play very important role in the field of heritage, and they are very their contribution has to be accepted, and more involvement with these NGOs and supporting the NGOs can be done. So, there are many more. Now, let us see, when we are talking about the government organization and the structure of the organization, why do we need the voluntary organization? INTACH, of course, it is an umbrella organization, we can understand that, but why we need the voluntary? What is their role? What is the role of their members in the field of heritage and conservation? I will just talk about Calcutta, because this is the region. I am thinking this is a situation in many of the cities. Now, if you take the example of Calcutta, I have shown that this is the old Chaurangi road, and this is what is happening there. As you can see that this particular building which is there, which has come up, and this building does not exist any longer, Darbhanga Palace on the Chaurangi, and the entire skyline is changed. But still we have other beautiful structure, like for example, the Victoria Memorial, which is a marvel of a colonial architecture, and but in spite of all the rules and regulation and awareness program, we see this is happening just in the vicinity of Victoria Memorial. This slender structure 42 was come up on the Maidan area, which had I was shown that the different heritage. Now, this definitely is an intrusion. It totally changes the skyline of that beautiful green area, which the lungs of Calcutta, and changing the relationship of the city. Now, how come this has happened, and how the people are reacting against that? Not only for this structure, but there are many other places of Calcutta which has got a heritage resources. So, let us see what has happened. Now, Darbhanga Palace is not there, as I said, because that time the listing was not in place. the Gerstein Place, which is a very important structure because it is a landmark of immense historical significance. It is the first All India radio transmission was made there. It was in the Dalhousie Square. This is gone. Senate, I have mentioned, this is gone. But apart from this monument structure, which are there are also other structure which give a identity and significance to various parts of Calcutta, and I am sure it happens in other cities of India. For example, there is an area in the southern part of Calcutta, a lot of Art Deco buildings on the Hindustan Road, and which are getting demolished. They are privately owned. Now, what is happening is that because the owners is not necessary that always they want to build, because there is a tremendous pressure of development. The promoters are coming and demolishing the structure, and sometimes the owner, even they don't want to, they don't know what are the options, what are the alternatives even to cope up with the economics. So, heritage economics is a very important part, and there comes the role of the voluntary organization apart from the rules and regulation. And in this way, there are initiatives by the citizens. We will just see that how these NGOs and voluntary organization are playing. So, these are the part of South Calcutta, which are the Art Deco buildings. It has its own character, and this CAL, which is the Calcutta Architecture Legacies, is done by it started by some of the important personalities from the various backgrounds, and they are spearheading a movement that how this not only can be saved, they are not monuments, but they build the existing architectural patrimony, a very distinctive character, part history of Calcutta is there, but one also has to simultaneously think that what are the alternatives, how to sort of bridge between the question of heritage economics and the development issue and the owner's aspiration and other. So, CAL is one such organization which is playing a very important role. As a part of that, they take care of the heritage work, they sort of try to like Lake Temple, Lord Delhi, because this area there are many very noted people like Satyajit Ray and Hemant Mukherjee and Soumitra Chatterjee and Tapan Sinha. These are the people who are from the various walks of life. There many of the structures have their association apart from the architectural character. So, CAL has been definitely found for that part of Calcutta, that how to make awareness of the people. They continuously do the heritage walk, have the panel discussion, and try to find out the way and talk to the government and other experts that what are the way out and how we can make this possible. So, recently they had a panel discussion, and where just after the Kenilworth Hotel, and is trying to bring together with the various people, promoters, developers, academicians, experts and others who are interested in the and from the people from the government, that they are interested in the they are aware that there is a heritage which we are losing. So, try to find out. So, these are very important part apart from the rules and regulation and the organization structure. These role of the NGOs and the public bodies, and to have the debate and to find a way out and try to bridge the sort of a gap between the people and having a discussion to find out a way out is very important. But what is also important is not only this people who are interested, the art also has a very important role. We have seen in the various parts of India that how, and the artists are also coming. So, one of these initiative, I can give an example by the citizen, which is the Chitpur local, is in the North Calcutta, which there are the building. So, this Chitpur local art festival by Hamdastis and NGO, which are done by a very important installation artist Anuradha Pathak and her friends. They are working for last 2-3 years for the tales of Chitpur. So, what they do is that they involve the school children, the local, and they have the exhibitions, the activities, and they try to find out that what are the everyday life and what are the heritage resources and activities. And actually, it is a campaign which is a very important part when we are talking about the heritage. So, recently, because as I said, the North Calcutta, which is very different from the Art Deco buildings of South Calcutta, they are courtyard mansion and the houses, and what they have done is that courtyard reimagined that that a local art festival, and where that this was a very traditional activity where they make the balloons, the gas balloons, and this was there, which is a neighborhood activity. They are trying to revive that and involving a lot of people, not only from the local area, but outside, so that this courtyard, the places which are an activity center, they find a new meaning. So, art also that how the artists are going out and they are trying to address this issue and to reinvent these places to find a new meaning of that through the various activities, a very important part of that, which cannot happen just with rules and regulation and only the economics. Public participation, awareness, reinventing, making them active, a sort of a festival, and which these places have a potential to do that. And also, like when this is also the Muktaram Babu Street, it is an old mansion which is now being renovated. The Monish Chakraborty is a famous local conservation architect. He is doing a site specific exhibition. It is not just doing an authentic restoration and other and finding out who can do that or what. It is also that how to involve the people and make them aware that what is happening. So I can see a festival like environment, bringing the people there, an art exhibition, an artist, so that it is a site specific exhibition celebrating the planned restoration site. This celebration, the spirit of celebration has to be there when we are talking about the heritage and resources. These are the intangible value. The what we see as a heritage are the product, they are tangible, but actually they manifest the intangible value of certain things, and that has to be celebrated, and that spirit has to be shared. So, actually when we are talking about heritage conservation, we are not talking about only the structure is a way of doing that, but we are talking about that what are the values which are important and how we can preserve, conserve that, and that is where you can see there is a campaign, the artists are coming, finding a new ways and involving the people from all walks of life. And this is not in Calcutta. We know the Kalaghura art precinct in the Fort Bombay, how it has now become a very important cultural activity and hub for education, history, art, and some of the popular restaurants. So, it has got a new meaning of that area. And the 9 days art festival is organized by the Kalaghura Association, and people come there from all the places. They see that, enjoy and experience that experiential aspect of the heritage area can only be brought into the focus through all these art activities and different things, and involving the local people and the stakeholders. And there are many such examples all over the world, but we are talking about India. We know that how the Fort Kochi and Mathincheri, the Jewish area, and now it has become a very important part where heritage, the role of voluntary organization and the festival, the Kochi Biennial has become a very important part, and it also has spread to another area, not only the tourism and reviving the heritage economics of that area, but also in a greater part it is also has tried to propagate what is the Mujiris, which is the local heritage of that area. So, we will talk about that. This brings us to focus that when we are trying to do such these activities, it will also bring the tourist and outsider, the local tourist, the national tourist, the international tourist, and it is very important to share the heritage resources, share the experience. But when we are talking about tourism and the visitors, it is a very integral part of the heritage conservation process. We must also be aware that what are the potential, what are the possibilities, and how we have to visitor management, and what are the threats of tourism. So, that we will talk in the next lecture, and we will continue. Thank you.